Welcome to another Top 5 here at MacGuffinPodcast.com. I am Brandi.
And I'm Allen.
And today we have part 2 of a very special Top 5. A couple months ago, we got together. We assigned each other 5 films that we couldn't believe the other one hadn't seen.
Right.
And now we have watched those films and we are back to give our thoughts on the homework that the other person assigned to us.
Yes, I watched my comedies. You watched your 3-hour
Yeah,
epics.
actually, I just said, before we get into it, I totaled up the runtime. The films that I assigned you had a total runtime of 9 hours and 34 minutes. And the total films that you assigned me had a runtime of 13 hours and 36 minutes.
I have to admit, I totally planned it. Sorry.
So,
but they were worth it, right?
a couple of them were worth it.
All right, let's get into it then.
All right, so the number 5 film that you assigned to me was 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, did you like the weirdness of...
minutes.
Did you like the weirdness of Kubrick there?
I think I liked the middle of the film a lot.
Oh,
like
the
a lot.
part
I
where-
like the part on the spaceship. I liked it a lot. If I was ever gonna watch this movie again, there's no way I wouldn't start it at 20 minutes in. Cause
You didn't like that whole beginning with the apes and everything?
No. What? No. I mean, okay, it's weird. It's whatever. It's surreal. I don't even know if that's the right word. It was boring as all hell to watch those apes
Really?
prance around for 20 minutes.
I can understand
and when
that.
the movie finally started, because for me it didn't start until that was over, I was into it.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand, like, the middle section with Hal and everything is the best part of the film. I mean, I don't hate the beginning. I was more like, I didn't really like the end with, like, the light show that lasted, like, how long? And then the guy being, like,
I feel like I kind of zoned out for that and just kind of, like, got into it.
You just kind of, like, had the lights all, like, coming around you, enveloping you and everything.
Yeah, and that's something I would go back and watch again. Overall, I say it was a good movie. I'm glad I watched it, but it's definitely not one that's going to be like storming my favorites of all time or anything.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I can respect that. My number 5 film that you had me watch was My Cousin Vinny. And honestly, out of the 5 that you had me watch, this was probably my favorite.
It's really good,
this
right?
Movie, freaking hilarious, dude.
Yeah.
I loved it. Like, Joe Pesci, like, doing his thing, being funny, not just being like the small, angry guy that he always is. Marissa Tomei is great in this movie. I mean, her last scene alone, like, I don't know who else was nominated for an Oscar that year, but she totally, like, earns her nomination with that her final
win.
scene.
She won.
Yeah, her win. Yeah, I mean, just up and down from the beginning to the end, I was totally into that movie. It was great, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's so quotable, right? Like,
I mean, I can't think of any quotes at this moment.
I wore this thing for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of it. Anyway, and some great Ralph Macchio action. I was a fan.
Yeah,
all right, so the number 4 film that you assigned to me was one that is, like, personally, I thought it was ridiculous that I'd never seen it, and that was Cool Hand Luke. Because I'm a huge Paul Newman fan, and this was definitely my favorite out of the ones that you assigned to me.
Yeah,
great movie.
It's great,
really
movie.
great. I mean, I knew I would love it, and I did.
I like how that movie is just pretty much, the entire movie is just, you know, Luke, like, just getting beat up, like, trying to escape, getting brought back in, trying to escape.
I really like prison movies, and there's some great sequences in this. Obviously, the
egg scene,
the famous egg scene, was that was a delight. Like, I was just so
going.
I was so pleased with that whole sequence, like, more so than with, like, just that sequence brought me more joy than all the other movies you assigned to me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I thought, like, all the characters in there were really interesting. You know, you had the cop who had the glasses and the no name, and then you had Dragline in there too.
Yeah,
it's really fun. I mean, there's that famous quote. You know, what we got here is a failure to communicate. You know, so it's a great movie. I love it. So I'm glad you liked it. Excellent. The number 4 film that you recommended me to watch was from 1987, and it was Broadcast News.
Yeah.
Let me tread cautiously here. First off, I like this movie a lot.
Okay.
I thought it was really well made. I thought all the acting in it was great. I thought it was really, really funny. You know, throughout all of it, I was like, okay, this is awesome. This is like an A film to me.
And then
Came the end. I did not like that ending at all. I thought it was completely tacked on. To me, it added no new information that we couldn't have already gathered from the from the scene before it. And even
it doesn't make any sense for you to say that it adds no information when the final scene is like 5 years later. Here's what happened.
There's no necessary information that was given at that final. I
think it would have been
all the characters
way too dramatic to end it early. We've had this argument off screen already.
No.
Way too dramatic to end it in the cab for what we had seen.
All the characters where they were at the end with the cab are the exact same.
That is not true.
That is totally
not true. Albert Brooks is unemployed. Flash forward 5 years. But they're still the exact same.
They're still the exact same. The dynamic between the characters are the exact same. Though.
No, the dynamic is completely different.
I disagree. I totally disagree.
They're barely friends anymore. Oh my god.
But you know what? I still really like the film. I mean, I really enjoyed it.
The ending to this film is polarizing. You're not the only one that feels the way that you feel. But I disagree. So.
Okay.
All right. Number 3 film was The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which you gave to me because you love it and because awesome. You know that I really like Clint Eastwood.
Yes.
And of course, he was great in it.
Yes, he was.
This movie did not need to be 3 hours long.
Yeah, it's a long one, and I mean a lot of it's a spaghetti western, so it's mostly like people like looking at each other like really hard, you know.
Yeah, it's a lot of looking.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of walking through the desert and all that. But I mean, I thought the style of the film was great.
I like the style. I like the story. I just wish that it wasn't like 2 hours 15 minutes. Easy could have been just cutting out a little bit of the.
I don't know. To me, it's one of those films that you kind of like bask in. You know what I mean? You just kind of like put yourself into it and you just go through the experience of it with the characters. I don't know. I mean, I can see your point that it is really long. It's not one of those movies that you can just pop in and be like, okay, I'm gonna watch this really quick, you know. But
I did like it a lot, but I just was kind of like wishing it would end.
I know I kind of spoiled the ending for you.
You definitely spoiled the ending for me. Yeah,
the
end scene is really great. Yeah, not a lot of suspense for me there about where we would end up, but yeah.
All right, cool. All right, my number 3 film was from 1978, and it was Animal House.
Mm-hmm. You know, this was a for your own good pick.
You know, I feel like I've seen this film like second-handedly.
Yeah.
Like I've seen like all the films that are like influenced, obviously like old school and everything like that. So when I was watching this movie, I mean, don't get me wrong, I thought it was good. You know, I enjoyed it and everything. But as I was watching it, I was like, you know, I've kind of seen this already. You know what I mean? Which is kind of weird because
you needed to see the original.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I needed to see the original to know where, you know, everything else came from. But like I said, when watching it, I did like it. I mean, I wasn't laughing out loud or anything like that as I did with my cousin Vinny, but it was good. I'm glad I watched it. So now I can finally tell people, hey, I watched it without lying.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to lie anymore.
Yeah.
All right. The number 2 film that you gave to me was one that you were just absolutely horrified that I had never seen. And I told you I didn't care about it at all. So I think you gave it to me out of spite. And that was Scarface with Al Pacino.
All right.
This movie is horrible, Alan. Like, honestly.
Wow. Okay.
Honestly.
What about it was horrible?
It is just heartless. It's spectacle, but it's not even interesting spectacle to watch. Like, it's just like the acting in it is across the board terrible. And I didn't give a shit about any of the characters. I wanted it to be over so bad.
I disagree with you.
I know.
I feel like this was one of the quintessential 80s films. I think, honestly, I feel this was one of Al Pacino's best performances. Even though it was big and over the top, but that's the whole point of it. He's supposed to be big and operatic and everything. I thought the action was great. I loved the epic scope of it, the direction, the music, everything about it I thought was great. You know, I knew you weren't going to like it, but a part of me was like, maybe she'll surprise me.
Nothing that happened in this movie felt earned to me. It was like he just kind of stumbled along, being loud, and all of a sudden he was a crime lord. And I was like, how have 3 hours of events happened? And I don't feel like any of it had any cause and effect. Like, it was just, and now it's a year later and he's wearing a different suit. Like, it's so...
He wants to move up quick, you know. He moves his way up quick on his own, you know.
But
he
how?
Goes through,
I still don't know how.
Through force.
No.
He kills everyone that gets in his way, you know. I mean, he's not one of those people that like slowly.
How does that work? Why does that work? We don't even like learn anything about like a greater like world that we're living in, you know.
No. I mean, I can like the way I see him climb that ladder. I found it to be totally logical. I mean, he starts off like on the street working at some food shop, and then he meets up with some guy. He does the job for the guy. He replaces that guy, and then he replaces the next guy, and then all of a sudden he's like on top of the world.
We're gonna have to agree to disagree about this one too.
Yeah, this one can go on all night. Anyway. Reference. All right, my number 2 pick is from 1980, and it is Caddyshack.
I feel like everything you said about Animal House just applies to Caddyshack too.
You know what? Like, it's kind of funny because you kind of got on me for not seeing this film. When I watched this, I was like, wait a minute, I've actually seen this movie.
Cheater.
Sorry, I'm like a complete total cheater. Yeah, I remember actually
used that pick.
Once I saw that gopher like crawling around, I was like, oh my god, I totally remember watching that at my friend's house. And then I saw my friend the other day, and I was like, hey, you remember Caddyshack? And he's like, yeah, you watched it at my house. My bad. But you know what?
Loser.
I liked Caddyshack a lot more than I did Animal House.
I think that's fair.
I thought, I don't know if you really watch it for the story or the plot or anything, but the film itself is just a stage for all these great comedians to just do their thing, right?
Yep.
To me, I thought Bill Murray totally stole the show with his quest to take out the gopher. The dialogue, the situations, the chemistry between everyone in the film. I mean, it was awesome. I really like this movie a lot. So
it's really good.
Cool.
All right, everybody's mad at me because of your number 1 pick, which was Godfather 2.
Yes.
And
how have you not seen this movie?
I really like The Godfather. I've seen it several times, and I had just never gone around to seeing part 2, and I don't get it. I don't get why this is so, I don't get why this is so renowned at all. Like,
wow.
I was never engaged with the flashback scenes because I just wasn't clear on why we were supposed to care.
You don't care about learning the background of probably the most iconic character in all the movies?
Okay, number 1, he's not the most iconic character in all
Vito
movies.
Corleone is not the...
No, I don't really care. I don't really care how he got to be where he was. No, and I didn't think Robert De Niro was anything particularly special. I didn't think the role really called for any amount of stretching. He has like one facial expression the whole time.
Really?
And I just think that the story of Michael in part 1 is way more engaging to me. Way more engaging to me to watch a guy who's struggling to do the right thing become someone who is no longer doing that than to watch an asshole become a bigger asshole, which is basically all of what his story in part 2 is.
Wow. I mean, I totally disagreed with you about this film. I think this is a complete masterpiece. I'm going to agree that it's not as good as the first one. I think the first one is one of the greatest movies ever made. But I mean, the second one is the masterpiece that everyone claims it to be. I love those flashback scenes. I think Robert De Niro's performance in it is great. I mean, the dude learned how to speak an entire language for the movie.
And then they handed him an Oscar for that big
He took all the expressions that Marlon Brando did in the first one and made it his own. The story of Michael Corleone and the relationship between his brother...
I don't think doing an impression in another language is worth getting an Oscar for.
Well, okay, but the relationship between Michael and Fredo and their dynamic and what Michael had to choose to do and what he decided between being a part of the business and choosing his family.
Interesting. I mean, overall, I thought the movie was just good. And I don't understand it being like a masterpiece, and definitely don't understand it being like number 3 on the IMDb or whatever like that. Like, I just don't understand, and I will probably never watch it again. Oh my god.
Whew, okay, breathe. All right, let's go to my number 1. My number 1 film, I am ashamed that I haven't seen until now, from 1985, and it is The Goonies. I could finally say that my childhood is complete. At the age of 27, I finally saw this film, and you know what? This is a fun movie. This is a fun movie, I love the adventure aspect about it. I think I would have loved this film more if I watched it when I was 8 years old.
The nostalgia factor is in
I think
quite
nostalgia definitely plays a big factor on this film's, reputation. I finally know what the meaning of truffle shuffle means. Finally.
Yeah.
God, I feel really bad for Chunk, dude. I felt really bad for Chunk.
Things are gonna be okay.
Because I actually looked like him when I was young.
You're a fat kid.
And seeing him do the truffle shuffle was traumatic to me. I mean, it was funny and traumatic at the same time. But It was a lot of fun.
Like, I think there are a lot of people out there who have not seen Goonies who are like, oh, you need the nostalgia, blah, blah, blah. And I understand that argument, but there's another movie that I think is really similar that I didn't see until adulthood, which is The Monster Squad, which I think is great in the same way that Goonies is great, and I definitely still appreciated it a lot as an adult. So if you haven't seen Goonies, if you haven't seen The Monster Squad, kind of a tangent, I don't think you need the nostalgia to understand those kinds of films and enjoy them.
Yeah. So great.
Anyway, please direct your hate mail about why I don't like The Godfather 2 and Scarface and whatever to MacGuffinPodcast.com. It's Brandi at MacGuffinPodcast.com. You can tell me how terrible I am.
Oh, man. Come on now.
And you should go to the site, catch a lot of other top fives that we have done, that the other writers for the site have done, the weekly podcast, all kinds of goodies. And we'll catch you next time.
Peace.